Hey, Jenny. I'm doing good. I want to do trying to do my makeup. Hold on, I want to put some light on. Ugh. Ugh. Wow. Yikes. I'm going to wait for people to Pitt selected at Philly. Pitt sleeted at Philly yesterday. It's sleet. Oh, did it? Yeah, I'm waiting to see if we get any snow soon. Hopefully we won't. Oh, shoot. Hold on. Let me do this. Just so that people know what we're going to be talking about and what we're going to be listening to. Doing my makeup on live. And for people who ask, this is the Missha, the glow skin balm. A lot of people use it for like the glow effect. I use it as a primer underneath my foundation. I have it pinned below. I really like it. Not greasy, not heavy. Hold on, I'm gonna put one of my lights over here. Jesus. Yeah, I see a lot of people talking about those messages from Steve, which really irritates me quite a bit. Hey, Survivor, how are you? Oh shit, is that the warm beige? Ugh, no, it's not what I wanted. Boo. Boo, 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 boo. And now I don't want to waste it. Ugh. I'll just do just a little bit so I don't have to waste it. It's not as yellow as I thought it might end up being. I'll wait for people to get in here. We're going to listen to real FBI profilers, and they have a 4-part series profiling Bryan Kohberger. Not bad. That's the warm beige for the Missha that I just keep I bought the warm beige and the natural beige. I typically wear the natural. I accidentally pumped out the warm beige. This is what the warm beige looks like. It's a little too yellow for me. But now I'll just put a little bit of the natural beige on top. Yeah, that's a little bit better. How is everybody doing as we wait for people to come in? Sorry, I'm just doing my makeup online because I like watching Steph the lawyer do it. I guess, did I hear that Birdie was playing some song making fun of Dylan last night? I got sent something about that last night. Birdie was on YouTube. I'm doing well, Survivor. I was just talking about, I got a message last night. So Birdie was playing some song making fun of Dylan, and I guess he had that devil's advocate, that fucking middle-aged fucking loser burnout with the pin needle eye pupils. And so they're on there and they're laughing, and everyone just thought it was hysterical. You people, man, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take. I don't know what it's going to take. I'm so pale I have to use makeup with the gray undertones. Gray undertones. I've never... What is that? I'm wondering what that even looks like. The Missha has a really good line of in terms of like what for your complexion. So I bought 2 so that I can mix and match it, because some days I'm fine with the natural beige. Some days I need a little bit of the warm beige. Yeah, I mean, I blocked Birdie a long time ago, and I think Devil's Advocate blocked me because I fucking corrected him. And he's a pussy who cannot be corrected, certainly not by a woman. It's just the idea that, like, they think this is so funny. They used AI to make some song about Dylan. I don't... Help me understand what's funny about that. Because I'm not getting it. I'm not understanding what's funny about making a song up about this girl. I don't get it. And I don't know why people are so fucking proud of it either. What am I looking for? Oh, my eyebrows. Yikes. I do not understand why people are so proud of, like, just harassing these girls. I don't get it. Time to draw on the eyebrows. Hold on. Fix my light. Does anyone else here use a brow tint or like a brow stain? Yeah, I would love that, Jenny. I'd love for you. No, I haven't played the podcast yet. I'm waiting for people to come in, and I'm really just kind of trying to do my makeup. Oh, God damn it. Why do I always do this? Ugh. I'm trying to learn how to use the Wonder. This is probably not, I just don't care at this point. Yeah, so I got sent that video, or it's a clip. I don't, listen, I think those people are idiots, right? But what people need to remember is nobody of any value listens to them. I don't know how else to say it without sounding like a dick. Nobody of any value listens to Birdie or to any of them. Hold on. Hello, sir. You know, and I think people need to remember that. I understand why people get frustrated. Like I got sent the message and they're like, "Can you help us? I don't know, like spread this around or whatever." I don't know how to say this, but like, people just don't care, right? Like these people, they're off. They're in their little world. They do their own little thing. They want to sit in their boxes and they want to just talk conspiracies. Fucking let them. Just let them. Like, they're not getting anywhere. They're all running in place. Nothing they say is going to change the course of this investigation or this case. Like, it's mostly just people who have, like, found a community online because they don't have a community in real life. And so that's all that is to them. Why am I not doing this correctly? You know? It's just people sitting online making fun of people and, you know, making fun of the, you know, Dylan and Bethany because it makes them feel better. They don't have anything else. I don't know how else to say it. These are just people who don't have anything else.
Oh, hey.
Hey, Jenny. How are you?
All right, I'm well. How are you? I don't have any makeup on, so yeah. All right, let me flip my camera and
Okay.
not dox myself. I just need to figure out how to do this. Okay.
Hold on.
All right. So keep in mind, I'm in Philly and we had crazy wind for the past couple days, so some of my stuff
Look
is
at that.
not in the right. Look at this.
Look
And
at
we
that.
got a little deer family.
Oh, I love
We
it.
got Rudolph. We got the Believe. And then we've got this guy.
Oh.
But we also have this sign, and he took a major fall, so we got to put him back together because the winds just took him. So not doxing. Hold on. Let me go inside. My partner's sleeping because he hasn't been well, so I'm gonna try not to show him.
Okay. That makes
But I'll
sense.
show you a couple other little decorations. I'm so excited because we had a house fire last year, so we're back in our house, and one of the things we were able to salvage were all of our Christmas decorations because they were in storage. So I got these cute little guys for.
Oh, that's adorable. The little peppermint.
And then I also got, sorry, I'm just trying to.
Oh, candy canes.
Yeah, like, are they cute?
Very cute. Oh, I like them.
Hold on. And then we got our tree.
Oh, that's
Look
beautiful.
how pretty. Yeah, we're still not done decorating, but okay, not going to. We're watching Hallmark. Not going to show the partner who's sleeping and not feeling good. But here's another tree.
Oh.
This is just like one of those little trees we have all the time. But we put a couple decorations on it because why not?
Mm-hmm.
Right, hold on. We got the other tree. We got some Santas. Another Santa. And that's kind of it. I have like, you know, these little guys. in the bathrooms, and then like my kiddo's room. We got all of that. So
very nice.
Just wanted to show and share.
That's adorable.
So, I'm gonna go off camera. Oh wait, we also have like these little guys for. Oh, the candles, right? We have candles. I don't have them lit right now. Maybe I do. Do I have them lit? Oh, we have like these are candles for the bathrooms.
Oh, I love those candles.
And
I
this
have
is
similar
such a cute
candles.
find
Hold on.
Amazon.
Well,
This
you
is
can
a
see
cute
them in the
find.
back. I have them across my windowsill.
Oh, you do?
I love
these
those candles. I love these.
With the remote?
Yes.
So this I love. We got it off of Amazon, and it was here they are lit. Partner just woke up, and this used to like the snow globe. It used to like do the thing, but now it's not doing it anymore. It broke like 2 weeks later, but it's still adorable. It's a night light.
Right? Yeah, I have a pink ceramic Christmas tree. Hold on, let me see. Oh no, I'll get it. I'll get it later. I'll light it up. Maybe I'll light it up and go live tonight. Those are adorable, and it's like the littlest things can make everything, right?
Yeah.
Can just change everything. That's so pretty.
Thank you. I mean, we still have a boatload of. My partner's trying to be silly. He's very shy.
Hi,
You say hi to character?
Hi.
Hi.
We still have like all these decorations to put on, but like we got a new rug. We got like all this stuff. This is Christmas in Philadelphia. 'Twas the night before Christmas in Pennsylvania. Why not, right? And then we got that. So yeah, I'm gonna turn off my camera now.
My mother loved Christmas, right? Like love. My two oldest sisters loved Christmas. Christmas is how I got my name. Why my name is spelled the way it's spelled. I was supposed to be born, I think, in late January or early February, but I ended up being born December 31st. And so my mother decided to name me. I was supposed to be named Danielle, but since I was born so close to Christmas, she wanted to name me Kristen, and she spelled it like Christmas. So that's how I got my name.
I love that.
Yeah, I was never much of a Christmas person. Well, I mean, I was.
My partner just said that's like a Hallmark movie.
Right?
So cute.
Well, here's how it's really like a Hallmark movie. This is so stupid. Well, not to bring the room though, but my mother died. She died like when I was 7. So Christmas has never really been. I don't know. I guess it's just depressed me. And then when my oldest sister died, she loved Christmas, and then my other sister died, and my other sister was always saying, you need to decorate. You need to decorate. And I was like, nah, I don't want to, the cat, blah, blah, blah. And then she died unexpectedly. And so since then, every Christmas now, I make sure to just get little things. Hold on. Let me fix that. I've made sure to get little things like, hold on. Like my little ceramic Christmas tree that I'm going to light up.
I love that. Oh my God. That is old school.
Right?
I grew up with, not a pink one, but I grew up with that. That was like my Nana had one.
My Nana too. My grandmother had one too.
Loved it. Oh my God. And she had it in her bay window on Bayard Avenue in Upper Darby, like the row home. Like I remember that so distinctly. And yeah, I love that they're bringing back some of those retro.
Yeah, because, I love it.
Sometimes they get broken or lost or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm so glad that they bring back some of that. That's awesome. So
I loved your decorations. People are coming in, so I think I'm going to start the podcast.
Yep, I'm gonna drop. But thanks for letting me up. I just thought I'd kind of kill some time. I love
it. Thank you. It made my day.
Right,
I love seeing stuff like that.
Love you.
Love you too. Bye. Someone said, I've been receiving messages from someone claiming to be best friends with Kaylee's sister. I would be very careful of people like that. Obviously, just be careful of people like that. I really keep trying to impress upon people that there are so many people out there that just want to insert themselves into this case. It's creepy, and they'll do it all the time. So be really careful of messages like that. She told me months ago they were going to sue for $100 million, so now I'm wondering if she knows more. She told me months ago they were going to sue for $100 million. So they're not, that they were going to sue for $100 million. That tort was filed 2 years ago. So it was filed 2 years ago. It expired. I know, Brian Enton said that it was the G family is suing WSU. I'll just say this. NewsNation has zero. I just made a video. NewsNation has zero credibility. Brian Enton has zero credibility. Ashley Banfield's a joke. They're completely biased when it comes to the G family, and they just report whatever the G family wants them to report. And they're not. I don't mean that meaning I think they exploit the G family for ratings and whatnot. But they don't care about accuracy. They don't. They first reported about this, suing them a few days ago, and the only source was a Medium article. No other media outlet has picked this story up. And that's the stuff to pay attention to. If no one else is picking this up, there's probably a reason why. So I'm kind of specious of that story. I find that story kind of specious, although it's totally possible. I do want to say, just because I've been talking about the Missha glow bomb, they're having a massive sale on it. It's usually $27 for today. Today you can get it at $12.83. I love it. It's a great primer. It's great for helping with the glassy, glowy skin look under your foundation or even over it. It's some people use it as a moisturizer. I do not, but it can be used as a moisturizer, and it's only $12.83, so $13 today. So if it's something that interests you, I would get it, especially if you have the Missha BB cream. They go perfect together, and the Missha BB cream I believe is only $10. Hold on. Yeah, I paid something like I think $12 for this. It's today it's $10.80. Worth it. Get both. They're both on sale. Let me see how we can product list in this live. So I've pinned all of them down there. Glow Bomb is definitely worth it, especially if it's only $13 when it was normally going for $27. All right, so for you, I'm going to start the podcast, if that's okay. You guys let me know if you can hear it or not. And it's the FBI. The Consult is the name of the podcast, Real FBI Profilers. And they did a fourth part came out today. So we're listening to part 2, Profiling Bryan Kohberger.
Keeps the blood pressure low and credit score raising. She's gotten get right out of her life. She tracks her cash flow. She's made up her mind.
He was 28 years old. He had grown up and lived his life in Pennsylvania. His parents are Michael and Marianne Kohberger. Michael was a maintenance worker and Marianne was a substitute teacher.
Yeah, if we could all tap the screen, that'd be great.
There's no reported history of physical, emotional, or sexual abuse, but just because we don't see that reported, we don't always know what goes on behind closed doors, but from everything we know, it doesn't seem that was the case. He was known to neighbors as quiet. He was a very heavyset child, and he was picked on. He was described by peers as being observant, awkward, and reserved. Some people, there's a couple people in one article, and I'll post these on our website, but 2 people called him non-existent. 2 different people, one from, I think it's high school, one from graduate school, who didn't know each other. I thought that was an interesting description. One of those people also said he was hollow, and a grad school colleague said, there's something human supposed to be there, and it's not. So kind of interesting, kind of a shell of a person, maybe just a person that seemed to others to be going through the motions. That's the way I am interpreting these observations that were made by the people who interacted with Bryan Kohberger. He attended high school, and he was described as a mediocre student. During high school, he had been apparently very overweight, and he experienced a dramatic weight loss between his junior and senior year. He had some health complications, ended up having cosmetic surgery as well. As Angela had mentioned, it was reported he may have been hospitalized for an eating disorder, but he was very regimented and controlled in his eating, that it seemed to have become a problem. He was a very strict vegan, and reportedly he wouldn't eat anything if it was cooked on a pan that had cooked meat before. So very, very strict. After this weight loss, during this time, his friends observed a very noticeable behavioral shift, and it seemed to create an increased need for control, verbal manipulation, and physical dominance. Described as seeking to be the alpha and often belittling peers to assert superiority. Also during high school, Kohberger had substance abuse history. He began smoking marijuana in high school and then began using heroin as well. At the age of 15, Bryan joined an online community of people who believed they suffered from visual snow. And he reportedly posted some pretty interesting things and some insight into how he felt about himself during this time. I'll just read a couple things, but I got this from Howard Bloom's book,
Oh,
And the Night
God.
Comes Falling, a requiem for the Idaho student murders. So if you wanted to see more of what he had posted, but a couple of interesting things that I'll read to you from the book. And again, these are things that Kohberger reportedly posted in this online community for people who believe they suffered from visual snow. So the first thing, I feel like an organic sack of meat with no self-worth. I am starting to view everyone as this. Everything I have ever done makes no sense. How did things get this way? I always feel as if I am not there, completely depersonalized. Constant thoughts of suicide, crazy thoughts, delusions of grandeur, poor self-image. It is like I have severe brain damage. I am stuck in the depths of my mind where I have to consistently battle my demons. As my family hugs and celebrates, I am stuck in this void of nothing, feeling completely no emotion, feeling nothing. I feel dirty, like there is dirt inside of my head. I think about my father, what a good man he is, how I treat him like dirt because I have this condition, and I can't take it. He also said that he could do whatever I want with little remorse. So that was a little insight into Bryan Kohberger at the age of 15. He ended up enrolling in community college. He did go to rehab at least once. That wasn't successful, but ultimately he did seem to recover from his heroin addiction. Again, multiple people reporting that he struggled with the addiction throughout his late teens and early 20s, but it did appear, at least by the time of the murder, he was no longer using heroin that we're aware of. It was reported that he lost friendships due to his erratic behavior and deceit related to the drug use. In fact, when he was 19, his father had turned him in for stealing his sister's cell phone, which he sold in order to purchase drugs. However, he did end up finding something he was passionate about, at least as passionate as he could be, and that was studying the area of criminal justice. In 2018, he completed an associate's degree in psychology. He then went on to earn a bachelor's degree in criminal justice.
Can we talk about that post that he wrote? Like, how haunting is that post that he wrote? Like, we all knew he had, like, written that. It was some, like, online board, I guess, for people with visual snow. But, I mean, he's pretty much, he says delusions of grandeur, which is, you know, that's narcissism 101, right? Yeah, I'm going to speed this up just a little bit.
Condition, and I can't take it. It's like he's saying, I know I should be treating him better, but not necessarily that he has remorse. He knows maybe socially that he sees other people treating their parents better. He knows that it's something he should be doing, but he doesn't feel it. He doesn't feel remorse for treating him poorly. He knows he should be doing better. That's just a perfect example of somebody that just doesn't feel empathy, at least on some level.
In other statements, he has openly said that he lacks remorse. And I think his background in the area of psychology informs a lot of what he observes about himself. You know, he makes some statements that are expressive of things like depression, but also things like he recognizes a lack of remorse in himself. So again, Angela, I agree with you. There's not just one personality disorder that shows a lack of empathy, but I think it's the degree of the lack of empathy that leads us to say that aside from any other psychological condition that he possesses, one thing he does possess is a psychopathic personality, or as the DSM would characterize it, as within the category of antisocial personality, but specifically in work that has been done in the specific disorder of psychopathy, he meets the criteria of psychopathy. That's not the only thing that his personality reflects, but both his self-revealing statements, his actions, and what we can discern about his inner life and his fantasies, all of that supports that he was a psychopath, or he is a psychopath.
And certainly we're not qualified to make that diagnosis, but at least when we're looking at the characteristics that we see, and I don't even need to see stuff he said years ago to know that he lacks empathy, because as Bob, you point out, his actions tell me he lacks empathy. He went and brutally and callously murdered 4 people for his own personal reasons, without any regard for their well-being, without any regard for the trauma he inflicted on the surviving witnesses, without any regard for what he has done to their families and their friends and the community.
Without
With all
prior
his
grievance.
Right, without any prior grievance, or without a personal connection that we know of to any of the victims. This was a plan that he was forming in some capacity back when he lived in Pennsylvania, and that plan was to murder an unknown person or persons without giving any consideration to them. The only consideration he had was for himself and how to avoid detection. He put a lot of time and effort into planning this and to avoid getting caught. And there are reports that he was looking up things and Googling things about psychopaths and sociopaths, and there's been questions as to if he was Googling about himself or Googling for his schoolwork, and I think it's about himself, because everything that he does is about himself. That's the only consideration.
I've always thought that he went into criminology, especially and studied psychology, especially forensic psychology, because I think he knew he was a psychopath, or at least a sociopath. And I have a hard time believing that he wasn't diagnosed with an antisocial personality disorder when he was much younger. It doesn't sound like they even put him in therapy, did they? Even though he like clearly needed it. It doesn't sound like they put him in therapy. At all, which is just strange.
He has, and that's clear. And I don't think we necessarily need to know what his Google history was or information that he posted online to make this assertion about him based on what we know about the crime he committed.
As you said, Julia, we don't, and nor can anyone, diagnose personality based merely on observations of criminal activity, etc. You need a qualified clinician, uses both psychometric testing and clinical interview to make a diagnosis of a psychological condition, including psychopathy. But as you said, in interpreting his actions, his activity, and in what we can gather of his life history, nothing is, say, opposing the opinion of he is likely to be a psychopath.
Yeah, the characteristics we see align with psychopathy, antisocial personality disorder, other things. But again, we're not qualified to diagnose. We're just looking at the characteristics that we see, not only in his personal history, but in the commission of the crime and his actions taken after the crime. This truly is a person who has no remorse and who only cares about himself.
Now, his odd personality, the fact that he is odd and awkward in interpersonal communications or interactions, that may not be attributable, and it isn't attributable to his, say, psychopathic traits. If he is a psychopath, it may be existing comorbidly with other psychological conditions that would influence his behavior such that he would present as odd, awkward, etc.
Right, as opposed to charming and charismatic,
Yes.
other characteristics that sometimes describe psychopaths.
And so I guess the takeaway is that while he is likely to be a psychopath, this just shows the great variations of what a psychopath may be, or who a psychopath may be. They may be an odd guy who doesn't fit in, such as Kohberger, but it may be someone who is very socially adept, like a Ted Bundy. Or it may be his outward presentation may be different than both of them, either somewhere in the middle or completely incomparable to either one. But what they all share in common is, at their base, a certain humanness, a certain ability to relate with other human beings, to sympathize and empathize, is missing, such that one of his peers, as you said earlier, said there's something human that should be there that just isn't. Perfect example, perfect description of someone of the type that we're speaking now.
Right, and this is someone who studies this as well. It's a fellow grad student of Kohberger's studying this. He noticed it. And I would think that that's the kind of relationship that you might have with someone. You would see more of those emotions being non-existent and him being hollow, as he was described. Whereas Dr. Ramsland, she's in a completely different type of position to have those same observations. It's a completely different relationship. There's something going on. If we all sit and study him, there are red flags, but I don't think anyone would have predicted this. And I think anyone who found out that he was the offender in this case was surprised. And then they look back and they say, well, he was awkward.
Does anybody really think that his peers at WSU were surprised to find out that he had been arrested? I mean, one of the teachers even said this: if we give him a PhD, he's going to end up stalking and harassing and assaulting students, female students. So do you think people really were? I don't think anybody was surprised. at all, especially the female students, because the female students knew right away. And a lot of people are, when we're talking about that lawsuit, people need to remember he wasn't at WSU very long. He was only at WSU for like 2.5 months. So it's not like they let him go through, a year or two or even 6 months before they decided to do anything. They stepped in right away. We're talking like what, October? So what because he started getting those complaints, in September? I mean, as a month. He was there a month. And people were already complaining about him. If they were surprised they didn't pay attention, right. This makes me want to go to that. I want to go to the spreadsheet that Body and Heinze made, because they have all the, they have all the interviews. Hold on. I'm going to the I want to read one of them. I asked, this is from the ISP documents, and someone's being interviewed, and it says, I asked Redacted about a couple of incidents of unprofessional behavior associated with Kohberger that I had read in a letter from the faculty advising Kohberger that he had lost his TA position. Redacted said the first incident that occurred with Kohberger was a time when Kohberger was in his office and was wanting to leave to go home. Mr. Kohberger showed up at the end of the day and wanted to talk. Redacted said it was pretty clear that he wanted to leave and that Kohberger wanted to talk. Redacted said this was not the first time this had happened with Kohberger, where he would show up late in the day and want to talk. Redacted said this behavior had bothered him for a while. Redacted said he would typically have his 40 hours in by the end of Thursday and did not want to work late on Fridays, and resented it when Kohberger would show up to talk on Fridays. Kohberger would want to talk about nothing in particular. After 10 to 20 minutes, there was an exchange that perturbed Redacted, where Kohberger wouldn't get to the point or let this guy go home. At one point, Kohberger told this guy that he was snarky, and this guy became tired and frustrated and told Kohberger to leave his office, and he did not. The guy got up and walked out of his office. He said Kohberger followed him out of his office and continued talking to him. That's just, and how much of that do you think is just him being socially awkward? And how much of that is him just being, like, he's just intentionally harassing this guy? Let me see. Ugh, this one was a nightmare too. So this is a woman, said the first time she met Kohberger was with another PhD student named such and such. They are friends who both came to where they acquired their master's degree. This meeting occurred at the graduate student orientation. Kohberger came up to them, and this woman said she instantly had a bad feeling about him. Women know creeps. Do we not know creeps? There's one feeling that's never wrong with us, and that is fear. We are raised to be able to identify fear. And this woman knew. Kohberger told her, so-and-so, the friend told her how she felt, and the woman told her friend how she felt, and the friend said to give him a chance. We're always being told to give creepy people a chance. Because we're always being, this is what I mean, and when I say, when Dylan was sort of second guessing her feelings, this is what I'm talking about. Oh, give him a chance. Why? Why should we ignore? We're always being told to ignore our intuition, and that's a perfect example. This woman said she had confronted Kohberger early on about the way he was speaking to women. She said she noticed early on that Kohberger did not like people that were not of his demographic, white men. She explained that there are a diverse class of different types of people in their class. One day, Kohberger was being rude to a hearing impaired student named, and they redacted the name. This woman said she called him out on how he spoke to her. This woman described how Kohberger's mannerisms also contributed to his rudeness. This woman further described that Kohberger would stare at people in an intimidating way. She would avoid sitting next to Kohberger in class. She told Kohberger that the way he was speaking was condescending and that he speaks that way to women and that it made her feel uncomfortable. Several of the students supported her in her rebuke of Kohberger. Kohberger responded to her by saying, "I care how you feel, but you're wrong." She said that after that she felt targeted by him. Then this woman became emotional at this point in the interview. She said Kohberger has since paid her a lot more attention. Kohberger would try and talk to her about the Ted Bundy murders because he knew she was interested in true crime. He also name-dropped a former professor of his named, and I think it was Ramslin. And, oh, God, hold on. Oh, my God, yeah. He also name-dropped a former professor of his named Ramslin. This woman admired Ramslin and wanted to meet her, but not based on her association with Kohberger. This woman said if she was going to meet her, it would be because of her own initiative and not because of Kohberger. This woman said she was interested in the fact that since the Moscow murders, some people were comparing them to the Ted Bundy murders that occurred at a college sorority. And Kohberger wanted to talk about those murders with her. What am I saying? I have been saying all along, that he was recreating, they're talking about the Chi Omega murders. They're talking about the Chi Omega murders here. This woman she started documenting Kohberger's interactions with her. Then she made an informal report to somebody, but she didn't like the way they responded because she felt that they could not adequately, I'm assuming they mean not adequately protect her from retaliation. She said she continued to report her experiences to and I'm assuming it's some kind of board at school, as well as the program chair and other professors about feeling unsafe. Look at how many people this one woman went to. She went to like different departments. She went to department heads. She went to professors. She said she recently wrote in a graduate questionnaire that she continued to feel targeted and didn't know how to handle the situation. This woman was begging for help. She said they were required a discrimination training because of the things Kohberger had said. Let's see. Should I keep trying? I mean, this woman was really, really paying very close attention to him and everything he was doing. Jesus. Kohberger always wanted to talk about offender decision-making. Kohberger gets very defensive when he feels like he is being questioned. On one occasion, so-and-so had cut him off when he was going on and on during one of his monologues. Kohberger responded that he felt it was rude when someone would interrupt him. So-and-so said Kohberger would use qualifying words in an effort to hide behind saying offensive things. I wonder what that means. She said one time in November, she found Kohberger in her office. She felt uncomfortable and left. This woman shared an office with 3 other people and didn't feel like she should have told him not to be in her office. When she came back, Kohberger was in so-and-so's office with his body turned towards so-and-so's office. Later said Kohberger wasn't talking to her about anything important. She said when she came back, he asked her where she had been. She told him it was none of his business. So-and-so said Kohberger had bloody knuckles at the time. She said the wounds were bad. Said Kohberger recently started wearing a giant puffy jacket. Even in class, she found this odd, and that's in November. Character, did his other college have anything to say about him? And not that I know of, and I think that's where Ramsland was teaching. And she was like, oh, he was a dream student. CA got them off a huge online retailer. What are we talking about? The Gift of Fear by Gavin DeBecker. I mean, that is, we hear about that one all the time. I would say go to YouTube and listen to Dr. Gary Briccato. I adore him. I think he's so incredibly smart, even if it's just about identifying people like this, right? Like identifying these creepy people. I'm surprised I haven't seen any TikToks or anything from his students talking about him. I do wonder, I don't know, were they asked not to? I mean, could that probably because of the trial? I'm sure so many of them were going to be witnesses. Honey, can you please get up? I'm sure a lot of them were going to be witnesses. And so they couldn't talk. And I really think at this point, people have seen so much about what's gone on in terms of harassment of anybody associated with this case that people are they don't want their names out there. Right? Like the Kohbergers are just going after anybody. They're going after everybody, right? And I think that's why, we're not seeing a lot of students from University of Idaho or or WSU, just so that people know what I'm using. This is the eye stain that I'm using from Sashu, which I love. Simple, one step. I don't get frustrated. Love the pigmentation. It lasts all day. I don't have to redo it. Let me see. I sometimes go a little too light, I think, because I'm always afraid I'm going to overdo it. Do we like this? I like this color, right? It's a good color. I think I might have done a little bit more on the left than the right, so maybe we need to do a little bit more. This is Spice, for anybody who's curious. And I paid $16 for these. Now they're on sale for $12.80. I don't know if it's like Black Friday. I don't know if it's a holiday sale, but I paid $16. So very easy to like. Do we like that color? Is it too much? What are we thinking? Yes? Oh, I like it. It's like a reddish brown. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. How about my hair? What about the students? Yeah, that is odd. I think it is odd that no one saw it in DeSales, but what I'm wondering is, was DeSales in Pennsylvania? Because if so, that's still, like, he's still near his parents, right? Like, it would have been easier for it to get back to his parents. I think moving away is when he really kind of started, because they say he was always, had to be the smartest person in the room and had to dominate all the conversations. But it sounds like it really amped up when he got to WSU. Oh, thank you, NJ. Thank you, LG. Yeah, I really do. They last 12, it's only $12.80. I paid $16. One step. I've been saying this all week. I really prefer things where it's very simple, very few steps, so that I don't get overwhelmed. I get overstimulated very easily because of my ADHD. Oh, thank you, LG. Thank you, Alex. Dreaming of Disney, thank you. I really do think that getting to WSU was when he felt like he wasn't under his parents' thumb a little bit. I do wonder, like, were his parents on him a lot? Do you know what I mean? Like, always on top of him, always watching what he was doing. And is that part of the reason why he wanted to go to WSU? I think he wanted to go to Washington State because of Bundy. Bundy went to Washington University. And Kohberger went to Washington State University. Or no, Washington State. What, am I screwing those up? Bundy went to one of them. Kohberger went to the other. Yeah, so let's see what else. Kohberger said if he were to ever have a sexual partner, they would have to have no physical or mental disabilities. They would have to be straight and the opposite of gender nonconforming. Yeah, this is just somebody, it's like, was he trying to piss people off? So-and-so said some people in the program thought he might have autism. She thought Kohberger was a narcissist. I'm like, this woman, I think, had him pegged from the get and was doing everything she could to get people to pay attention to her. And this is why people are like, well, why did she report? Why don't women do this? Because nobody fucking listens to us. That's why. So-and-so said when she first heard of the homicides in this case, she wondered if it could have been Kohberger. Really? Like, that's... Really? That's... not odd in like a negative sense, but this girl must have really, really feared Kohberger for that to be her first assumption. Wait a minute. Kohberger was the only student in the class that believed in the DP. Kohberger asked her if her 12-year-old daughter was essayed and unalived, if she would support the DP. That's odd, too. He was the only one in his class to support the DP, and then people are like, oh, no, that's why he took a plea. He was afraid of the DP. I don't think he was afraid of the DP at all. I just think he knew, I'm not going to win this. And I think he wanted to avoid a trial to avoid a lot of that stuff coming out. Like a lot of the stuff, like the mistakes that he made, all this stuff. I think he didn't want that stuff coming out. Has anyone said how he was as a kid, teen? Do you think his addiction affected it or just... I've always thought that the addiction played a part. Not so much the addiction. Well, the addiction is a result of a lack of impulse control, right? It's a result of certain things triggering the reward center, the pleasure center of his brain. And I do think that once he got clean, and we hear about this all the time. Like if someone goes into a 12-step program or if they get sober, they transfer their addiction from one thing to another. Most people just go from like booze to cigarettes or cigarettes to booze. You know what I mean? Or cigarettes to coffee. I do wonder, because he had that history of addiction, did he need a rush, like a far greater rush than your average person? And is that where his desire to unalive someone came from? Is that what it was? Like, I think he got the same rush from the rugs that he got from breaking it, like watching women and breaking into their houses and following. I think he got that same rush. Yeah, LG. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Addiction affects the brain, so it would have played a role in his behavior. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I do. I have always wondered about that, about how that's actually something now I want to look into that. Like, how did addiction play a role in the murders? That's interesting. That's an interesting topic. Just in general, like how addiction works in general. I should believe Kohberger. Let's see. Kohberger is always the first person to express his support of police. Again, mention her and Kohberger's disagreement about the value of SROs in school. What are SROs? So-and-so said she believed Kohberger's question about if someone else was also arrested after his own arrest was an attempt by him to throw people off, and not that he had a friend or acquaintance. Said she noted she had been told that he drank a bottle of wine at some mixer. Kohberger is very nosy and tries to look at what other people are texting. She said her friend had Kohberger over to her apartment on one occasion and told her that she thought Kohberger had gone through her medicine cabinet. So-and-so said she had not heard Kohberger talk about offenders studying victims' behavior before committing a crime. She suggested we speak to so-and-so because so-and-so felt Kohberger would have discussed his interest in studying violent sexual crimes. This woman said Kohberger committed these homicides because he wanted to know what it felt like to commit these crimes in relation to his studies, and ultimately if he could get away with the crimes, further supporting his belief that he was smarter than others. So this woman said committing these crimes and his need to control others is consistent with his personality. Agree with that. This woman had him, it sounds like this woman really had him pegged. Hey girl, hey! Hi, Allie. Yeah, there's always that one person who just, like, fucking sees somebody for who they are. This is my next purchase. The Tower 28 Line and Shine. It's like in a mauve. I love the jelly lip glosses. I love the jelly lip glosses. They last much better, much longer than regular lip gloss. This is a jelly. Just has a better shine. Let's see. Is there another one? I want to say this is with Emily. Maybe. I'm not sure. Oh, page 1 of 1. Yep. I don't know, man. Didn't you support Barbecue Lady a while back? I've been off social media. Yeah, I still support Barbecue Lady. Welcome back, Chomper. Thank you, Chomper. Hi, Niho. Do we want to go back to listening to the podcast for a little bit? Oh, thank you. Do we want to keep listening to the podcast? Yeah? Okay.
He was odd, and then that's when you see the red flags. But nobody ever thinks that their neighbor, their friend, their student is a serial killer. Well, rarely. Most of the people don't think that. We do get some emails where we get a lot of people. I think my dad is the Zodiac. So occasionally we get that. But generally, we don't think that about people. And while the red flags are there when we look at him after the fact, we couldn't have predicted this without knowing his inner thoughts.
You could observe someone who is identical presentation to this individual and say, yes, they're odd. Yeah, they unnerve me. But am I going to call the police and say that this person is likely to murder someone? No, I'm not. Because, I mean, arguably, there are countless people that one person or another would describe as odd. That is not an observation that would support an accusation of a person on the verge of criminal activity. Odd, you can be odd and eccentric in our society, and there's literally nothing wrong with it. So just the fact that he was observed as being an odd person certainly has no intrinsically negative indicators attached.
So I do want to talk about whether or not classifying him behaviorally as a mass murderer or a serial killer, do we think he would have killed again? So just to give the definition, the official FBI Behavioral Analysis Unit definitions of these crimes: mass murder, unlawful killing of 4 or more victims at one location in a single continuous event. That is what happened here. It's a mass murder. Serial murder is the unlawful killing of 2 or more victims by the same offender in separate events. So this was not a serial murder by definition. Now, as some people have heard us talk about serial murderers and the definition of killing 2 or more victims by the same offender, I've always thought it's possible to be a serial killer in your heart and not necessarily have killed 2 or more victims. And I think that's where Bryan Kohberger fits in. I think he committed a mass murder, but I think he is someone that likely would have killed again after what we would call that cooling off period. Now, when we talk about statistics, and we've talked about this many times, that people who commit murder usually only commit one murder. They don't become serial murderers. So it is possible he might not have killed again. It is possible. But I think in this case, just based on what happened, I think we would likely think he probably would have killed again. He wanted to study serial killers because, in effect, he's studying himself, and he wanted to become a serial killer.
I think when you look at murder...
How many people here think that he was an aspiring serial killer? Do we think that he was an aspiring? Vicky is James Patterson's co-writer. We're listening to a podcast called The Consult. They're FBI profilers, and they're They have a 4-part series where they profile Bryan Kohberger. Do I think Kohberger will ever do interviews? Yeah, I do. I don't know when, but I do. Yeah, I think he would have done it again as well. Yep. Look at that. No, I'm asking if you've seen Vicky's interview with Ava Wood. No. That just didn't interest me. I saw something about it on Reddit. I'll just say this. I just got a vibe from Ava Wood. I don't know. What happens if he doesn't have the money? Well, he will be getting money in prison because he'll probably get a job. He's got money on his books. People are sending him money. He's already been sent $28,000. And I believe like 20% of that goes into the restitution, paying back the families. Ava Wood is a friend of one of the victims. And I shouldn't say I got a vibe about Ava. I got a vibe about Vicky Ward after I read that Patterson book. I don't know. Does anybody remember in the Patterson book, does he ever remember talking to grand jury? Does he ever remember saying he talked to grand jury members? Because I don't ever remember that. The other reason why I say I do want to talk about those leaked messages again. I don't believe that Steve talked to a grand jury member. I think Steve talked, this is my personal feeling, just based on, we looked into those messages, and based on the timing of things he said in these messages and things posted by JLR, like in the messages, Steve is telling that social media creator that the roommates were texting during the murders, which isn't true. And within 20 minutes, JLR writes a tweet like announcing that. So to me, it's the sense that I get is I think JLR was giving Steve information, fake information, bad information, and the fact that this would come out that he spoke to a grand jury member and there was no, like the defense, the defense and the prosecution, there was nothing. They didn't blink an eye. Now we saw what they did with Dateline. We saw how upset they got with Dateline. If they believed that Steve talked to a grand jury member, you don't think that they would have, that the judge, that the prosecution, that the defense, that they wouldn't have like circled the wagons about that? And they didn't. And they didn't, I suspect, because they saw the things that Steve was saying was told to him by the grand jury member and knew, well, that was never discussed. That was never said. We don't have a receipt for that. And then they realized that he was probably trolled. Somebody gave him bad information. No. Well, in Pennsylvania, they don't require body cams. At that point, they didn't require body cams, so that wasn't recorded. They discuss the interview with him, but they don't have a recording of it. And the minute they bring up the murders, he says he wants a lawyer. So they don't discuss. Hey, Tiff. Did they ever find out who the leak was? If they did, they're not saying. Yeah, listen, I wish people wouldn't be talking about those messages at all, because it was, what, a year and a half ago? I wish people wouldn't be talking about the messages at all, but if they are going to talk about them, they should have the fucking decency to read all of them, the entire string. Don't just cherry pick screenshots that support your narrative or that give you content or that give you, something to make yet another video about Dylan, right? Have the integrity to read the whole thing. And they're out there. You'd be able to find it. It's not like you can't find it. It's not like you can't find the entire string. Have some integrity. Right. I know, Allie. I know that that's what they do. And it sucks, but I don't think the frat boys have anything to do with it. The only reason why people thought the frat boys were involved were because of that rumor early on about a fight at the frat party. And then that 4chan post, which I happen to think was written by Kohberger. So no, I don't think the frat boys were involved at all. It just doesn't really make sense. How do you keep something like that secret? How do you, there's just there would be too many people involved. When he himself said he sat down with the grand jury, Brad, I don't think he did. I think somebody told him I'm just going to say it. I think, like, we've seen the messages that Steve's gotten, right? We saw that text message about the sister and how the sister was the one that tipped off the police and the sister and the DNA, and we found out all of that was false. I think it was something like that. I think someone contacted Steve, told him, because if you go back and you look at the messages, Brad, at one point, doesn't he say that it was James Patterson that introduced him to the grand jury members? Am I remembering that correctly? Because if that's correct, and another part in the messages, he's talking as though he doesn't know who James Patterson is. Yeah, I mean, Brad, I get that. I think that Steve, he's going to protect whoever is telling him stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't believe that the prosecution and the defense wouldn't have hopped on that, like, right away. Look how they got over Dateline. And they're not going to get mad that he's talking to someone from the grand jury? That doesn't make sense. Especially if I'm Ann Taylor, I'm going to use that however I can. And nothing was made of it. No, Gilbertson investigated it. I'm talking about the prosecution and the defense. They had nothing to say. We saw what happened with Dateline. Like, we saw literal court documents about it. It was discussed in court documents. Nobody even mentioned this. I don't think they knew. Well, once the messages came out, they knew. Just reading the... And again, I'm just saying this is just my opinion. You know, just going through those messages, a lot of the stuff that he said in those messages just ended up not being true. And if he heard it from the if he heard it from the grand jury, then how could this stuff not be true? Do you know what I mean? Well, the stuff about Bethany seeing a naked man running from the house, that's not true, right? The stuff about the receipt for the jumper, for the jumpsuit, that's not true. The stuff about Dylan sending a text message saying, I think someone killed them. Well, he said that they were texting during the murders, and they weren't. They texted after, and we don't have any message. We don't know of anything that she said where she said, I think someone killed them. Like, we don't know. We didn't hear anything about it once we heard about all the text messages. Like, where was that receipt? That $49.95 receipt? You know, like, where was all that stuff? That didn't come from the grand jury stuff, though, girl. Well, what did? What came from the grand jury did? Do you want to come up and talk about it? Because you told me you didn't want to be in a box and talk about it, but you're talking about it. Right. I thought Steve got a lot of info from a PI, which wasn't his PI. Yeah, that was the one. She went live. I think we were in Chase's box. And she showed us a text message that Steve had gotten from someone claiming to be former FBI, talking about the sister. And the sister being, like, tipping them off. And I still have it. I will dig around. I have a video of it. I'll have to go look for the video of it. Yeah, it was this whole thing about this guy pretending to be from the FBI, a former FBI, and that the sister was the one who tipped off police. And the sister was the one to give the DNA. And we found out all this isn't true. Like, I just think people were constantly, they're so desperate to ingratiate themselves with these victims and their families that they're doing this, that they're like, oh, I'm so-and-so and I'm associated with this. And, you know, to get these, we saw all those, like, tips in the reports. We saw those, the one from the woman on Tinder, how she said that she's talked to, what's-his-face, Kohberger, and he said, what's your scary movie? And then he started talking about K-bar knives, like, and then they went and dug and went looking for, like, any record of this exchange, and they couldn't find anything. Like, people have no problem, like, making this shit up. And we all know the dot stuff. The grand jury was simply that their stories pose more questions than answers, basically. Okay. Shh. People are still saying the sisters tipped them off. As far as we know, the sister had nothing to do with it. I don't think he would lie either. I'm not saying that I think he lied. I think he was fed bad information. Like, I think somebody went to him. And said that they spoke to a grand jury member. And then they gave Steve that information. And Steve wanting to, like, I don't know, protect the source. I don't know. Maybe give the story a bit more validity. I don't know. Steve repeated it. Do you know what I mean? I don't think he was lying. I think somebody gave him that information. I just don't think it was a grand jury member, because I don't see how the defense and the prosecution, especially defense, why wouldn't the defense jump on that? Do you know what I mean? Why wouldn't the defense, like, they're doing everything they can to try and get an extension, to do this, to do that. Why wouldn't the defense say something about that or do something about it? Like, there was nothing done. Right. Jen Berry thought grand juries are only the prosecutors presenting their case, providing enough to get an indictment. I agree. I think if a grand juror really, there's just no way Ann Taylor wouldn't have been all fucking over that. There's no way that, well, Judge, he was kind of lax. I can't believe the prosecutor. I can't believe Thompson wouldn't have been all over it. Yeah, I think the defense only found that out through the interviews after the fact. Can you give a quick recap about what you were talking about specifically? There was a string of text messages between Kaylee's dad, Steve, and a social media creator. Now, Steve was talking to multiple social media creators, and he was telling them the same thing, like almost verbatim. He was telling them the same things. And these messages got leaked, and I shouldn't be laughing here because I'm the one who posted them. The messages were posted, and in the messages, Steve said that he spoke to a grand jury member and said that the grand jury members told him that Dylan's testimony raised more questions than answers, and that they felt she should be prosecuted, which just doesn't make any sense. Like, based on what? Do you know what I mean? Like, based on what? I don't think anyone knows, if I'm being honest. Well, a lot of people know, because remember, like, the family came out on their Facebook page and said that the messages were fake, and they blamed somebody and said they accused somebody of writing them. So they knew about it. It obviously got around. I mean, people were constantly messaging Ann Taylor every little thing. Listen to this Linda Lane footage. Listen to this. There's no way that wouldn't have gotten out or wouldn't have gotten back to them. But these messages were leaked during the case still, so Ann could have pulled that for her client. Right, that's what I mean. Like, I just have a very hard time believing Ann Taylor wouldn't have done something. Don't forget, like, stuff was being published in those the airmail articles too. Like stuff was being released in those airmail articles, like about the receipt for the Dickies, right? Or they believe that that he wrapped everything up in a garbage bag and put it in the trunk. All that stuff was published in airmail articles written by Howard Bloom. So that alone would have been like, well, where the hell is he getting that information? Right? So whether it's an airmail article or whether it's a Dateline episode, it's still clear that like stuff was being leaked. Could it have been the jurors were speaking off the record that she seems sus? Maybe. Maybe. A lot in that airmail was incorrect. I mean, she had 2.5 years. I don't know why she wouldn't have had time. They said they were looking into her being charged with failing to act. But again, based on what? Like, based on what? Based on what? Because they had the text messages, because we have little bits of her grand jury testimony. So, I mean, I don't know. Like they didn't know what was happening. And like, where would that conversation even come up? Like, was it after the fact, like some person who was on this grand jury and they're just giving their opinion? I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there's no way that they didn't know about it. There's no way. They knew that there were leaks. They knew that. Hi, BB. Hi, Connor. No. He commented once and said they weren't real, and that was that. He never commented on them again. It was the grand jury member saying that their stories didn't exactly add up. Okay. Well, okay. Like, we have no proof of this. We have no proof of this. And the reality is, and this is just the truth, much of what Steve says when it came to this case has turned out to not be true. Not because he's lying, but because he's just might be getting information from the wrong people. Hey, Diane, how are you? I've said it's my opinion. I mean, I said I think he was being trolled. It is my opinion. There's nothing that backs it up. There's nothing that backs up he spoke to a grand jury member. It doesn't make any sense that that information would all be out there and that the prosecution and the defense would just be like, oh, well, right? Like, you know, it doesn't make any sense. We don't know either way. We don't, but we can make a pretty good guess based on what's said in the messages. In one place in the messages, he said it was Patterson that introduced him to the grand jury members, but in another place in the messages, he's kind of acting like he doesn't know who James Patterson is. Right? Like he said, there's an author that wants to work with us, Patterson, I think. So which is it? Unless I'm getting that wrong. Hey, Jennifer. BK did this on his own. He is a sick individual planning from a... Yeah. Yeah, I think he planned it for a long time. I'll look for that message that Stephanie posted that Steve got from someone claiming to be former FBI, where they kept referring to Kohberger as the perp. What else were they talking about? Was it something to do with a restaurant? They went something about being at a restaurant at Christmas time, and Kohberger wanting like a table in the back or something. Yeah, we're never going to know the full reasons why or how. Okay, I'm gonna take the dog out for a walk and I'm gonna eat my lunch. But I think I'll try to come back a little bit later and go live again when more people can join and we can listen to more of this podcast. Does anyone remember reading about student using dad's DEA jacket and supposedly went in the house? I think I heard a rumor about that. I don't know where I heard that though. Thank you, you guys. Yeah, I'll try and come back a little bit later. And if you have any questions, just shoot me a DM. Make sure you're following me on Patreon because I'll upload this to Patreon. And for people who didn't see it, it was in the documents. What is the pod? It's called The Consult. It's hosted by 3 FBI profilers. All right. I will talk to you guys later. Goodbye.